Welcome back to the 5th round, where we're going to be previewing UFC 238. Now this is going to be coming out in two parts. One for some of the prelim fights, and the second part, of course, looking at the three main fights on the card, where we have Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone. We've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai, and of course the main event is Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes for the Bantamweight Championship. So yes, the three we're going to be looking at in this video is Katlyn Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso, and of course Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff. So yes, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and of course comment your thoughts for UFC 238, because personally I think this is the best card of the year so far. We've got some absolute cracking fights all the way along the card, from the main card to the early prelims. So yes, kicking off, we've got Katlyn Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood. Now this fight is opening the card. Now if you put this potentially on their rankings, then they're ranked 2 and 6 in the flyweight division for the women, the 125-pound division, of course. This is very much on a main card of fight night, perhaps, but you know, it's opening up the fights on UFC 238 with the early prelim match, of course. Now this could potentially be a title or a number one contendership match to decide who faces either Valentina Shevchenko or Jessica Ai next, depending on who wins that fight, of course. Now, Chookagian comes into this fight with a record of 11 wins and 2 losses, whilst Joanne Calderwood has 13 and 3. Now, but on top of that, Chookagian has a 3-inch advantage in height and a 3-inch reach advantage, and also has a leg reach advantage as well. So she's coming into this with the bigger size. She's got the size advantage on Joanne Calderwood, who's quite a lean, short, well, not short, but she's a leaner athlete, should we say. Now, 73% of Chookagian's wins have come via decision, and this is very similar for Joanne Calderwood, who's at 53% as well. So you'd be expecting this fight to be going the full distance. However, Joanne Calderwood does have some very good techniques and abilities, both striking and on the floor. And I haven't seen much of Katlyn Chookagian, I must admit, but of course she has a record and she's at number 2 in the flyweight for a reason. Now within the striking department, it's 5.86 strikes per minute landed in significant strikes for Joanne Calderwood. So she has a slight advantage over Katlyn Chookagian, who's around the 4 mark. So you'd be expecting a high level of output from Joanne Calderwood. Now both absorb similar amounts of shots at about 4 per minute. So again, you'd be expecting Joanne Calderwood just to get a strike or 2 more in this fight per minute than Katlyn Chookagian. You'd expect her to take the center of the octagon and to really dictate the pace of this fight, and also look for takedowns. Now she has a takedown in her per every 15 minutes, and similarly Katlyn Chookagian doesn't have any takedowns in her arsenal, or in her fight repertoire, should we say. So you'd be looking to take the fight, if the fight does go to the ground, you'd be looking at a Joanne Calderwood takedown, and this is where she really gets into her own now. I know she's been looking for a submission victory, or a particular submission victory in her past 2 fights. Now maybe this is the chance to do it, and if she thrives on this, she does get a shot at the title against Valentina Shevchenko or Jessica Ai. Now I don't expect this fight to be stopped via submission for either fighter, because neither of them have a high output in submission averages per 15. They have 0.71 for Jojo and 0.17 for Katlyn. So again, this is one I expect to go the distance. I think this is going to be a very good opener, although I've not seen many openers go the full distance in the past month or so. So maybe it's going to be a finish. And I'm backing Joanne Calderwood all the way this fight. I have to, as being the Brit here, you have to back the Scottish, even though she's moved out into Vegas now, and she's looked phenomenal for it. She's at the UFC Performance Institute, where she's training now, and part of Syndicate MMA, of course. So yes, I'm backing Joanne Calderwood for this fight. I think she's going to get it done via a TKO stoppage. Now moving on to prelims, we've got Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso. Now Karolina Kowalkiewicz is coming into this fight on the back of a couple of losses against Jessica Andrade, and most recently against Michelle Waterson earlier in the year, where she did get a decision loss, but she didn't have an argument to say that she could have got the decision her way. It was very comfortable for Michelle Waterson, and you know, I remember seeing her at UFC 205, where my very first UFC event that I watched, going to the belt, and now she's finding herself 10th in the strawweight rankings and potentially looking to fall out the top 15 should she lose to Alexa Grasso. Now, looking at this, Alexa Grasso is 13th ranked, and she's not great. She hasn't got a great record in the UFC. She's 2-2 now in 4 fights inside in the octagon. But Karolina does come into this with a record of 13 wins and 4 losses, and it's 7-2 for Alexa Grasso. Grasso also has a 2-inch advantage in both height and her arm reach, but Karolina has a longer leg reach, just by 1 inch though. As I said, Karolina Kowalkiewicz's last fight was against Michelle Waterson. Alexa Grasso's last fight did in fact come against Tatiana Suarez, who's later on in the card, headlining the prelims in fact, where she did get that loss as well. So she's coming back on. Both fighters are coming back on the back of the losses, and both really need to get their wins if they want to move up the rankings and certainly withhold and withstand in those rankings. Now, personally, I was thinking perhaps maybe Karolina Kowalkiewicz, if she could put some muscle up, would maybe be better off going up to the 125-pound division, perhaps. But she seems comfortable in the 115 now. I don't know what her weight cut's like, whether she's losing 10, 15 pounds. She's quite, a lean athlete and quite slimmer. So I can imagine she's cutting maybe 10 pounds, perhaps 4 to 8 pounds, maybe some counts. But again, I think Karolina Kowalkiewicz really needs to get a win here, and she could perhaps push herself back up to maybe Weili Zhang. Joanne Calderwood is in number 4 in the rankings now, so Karolina Kowalkiewicz needs to be looking up rather than behind her shoulders. Now, 77% of Karolina Kowalkiewicz's wins have come via decision, and this is very similar to Alexa Grasso, who's on 60% of her wins have come via a unanimous decision. Now, Karolina Kowalkiewicz has 5.52 strikes per minute compared to a 4.5 from Alexa Grasso. So again, whenever I see Karolina Kowalkiewicz, she's always pretty much sort of pushing the pressure on. She's a great presser in terms of getting her distance right. Now, unfortunately, that was against her in Jessica Andrade's fight, where Jessica Andrade knocked her out, who is now the core strawweight champion, back in late 2018. But I like watching Kowalkiewicz fight. I like seeing both her and Joanne Calderwood, of course, both Polish athletes and Polish fighters, and they've been phenomenal for women's MMA and Polish MMA as a whole. Now, the downside for Kowalkiewicz is she also absorbs 5 shots per minute as well, so she's getting out as equal as she's getting back in her fights, really. So Alexa Grasso only absorbs 3 strikes per minute as well, so you'd be expecting Kowalkiewicz to be pushing to get in more strikes off, but potentially it could be Alexa Grasso who can find that one to get a finish, perhaps, as Kowalkiewicz does absorb 2 more than Grasso per minute. Now, again, this is a fight I expect to be on the feet, should we say, stand-up fighting, a lot of striking, a lot of kickboxing, I reckon. I think Kowalkiewicz is going to come out and use her leg reach advantage to really get and keep the distance from Alexa Grasso and be able to use the knees in the clinch, perhaps. But there's not going to be many takedowns. Both are at 0.1, 0.3 ranges for takedowns, so I don't expect this to be anywhere near getting on the ground unless someone has been knocked down and it's big ground and pound for the finish. Now, I am backing Karolina Kowalkiewicz this fight. I think she's going to get back onto winning weight. She seems to be someone who could go on 2 losses and gets a phenomenal victory, then pushes on perhaps, and then gets another loss, and it puts her back to square one almost. But I think she deserves a victory. Not that anyone sort of deserves a victory, but I think she's earned it now. And let's see where she goes from here. This isn't a title shot, but it's a big fight for her, and potentially one of these could get cut off from the UFC. Who knows? But I don't think that would happen. I don't think Dana's that cruel. Although, look at Elias Theodorou. Now, the last fight we're going to be looking at on this video is Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff. Now, this is number 2 and 3 inside the strawweight division, and Tatiana comes in this with a 7-win streak. She's 7-0, of course. And of course, Nina's coming to this fight with 10 wins and 5 losses. Now, both of their last fights came at the back end of last year, with Tatiana Suarez at UFC 228, and of course, we had Nina Ansaroff at UFC 231, both getting the victories in that fight as well. Now, they both have the same height and leg reach, but it's in fact Tatiana Suarez who has a 3.5 arm reach. Of course, she's going to come into this as a wrestler and potentially even it's a bit too soon because she's only 7-0, but with her wrestling capabilities, she's got such a background in her wrestling that she could potentially be known as the Khabib of women's MMA, perhaps the women's Khabib's in the Khabib of the strawweight division, perhaps with her wrestling. She's so good. She's got a takedown average of 7 per 15, which is absolutely incredible. But let's get back to the striking, of course, first. Now, 50% of wins for Tatiana Suarez have come via submission, so should she get the victory and make it 8-0, I'd imagine it's going to be done by a submission method. Now, for Nina Ansaroff, it was pretty impressive, 40% from decision and 40% from TKO as well, so you have an 80% chance of it being. Now, for Nina Ansaroff, it was pretty impressive to see 40% of her wins have come via KO or TKO, but additionally 40% have come via decision, so she either gets it done pretty early, or she goes the full distance and gets her arm raised by the referee on the judges' scorecards, of course. Now, this is one of the harder fights to predict, but I am going for Tatiana Suarez just because she has that incredible takedown average of 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. Now, for striking, Nina Ansaroff puts her out. She's on just over 5 strikes per minute, whereas Tatiana Suarez is at 4.7 strikes per minute. So again, you'd be expecting if this fight stays on the feet, which I really doubt it doesn't. If there's not going to be at least 2-3 minutes on the ground from Tatiana Suarez, that is, I'd be very surprised, and I'd be very impressed by Nina Ansaroff's tactics and her game plan going into this fight. Now, the bad news for Nina Ansaroff is Tatiana Suarez absorbs 0.72 per minute, so that's an absolutely incredible. You get to use up 2 minutes of the round to hit her just once. And similarly for Tatiana Suarez, or similarly for Nina rather, she absorbs about 3 per minute as well. So it's a very dangerous game. She's going to have to stay within range, use some clinches, but once you get clinched up with Tatiana Suarez, she's going to have that wrestling background to be able to take you down. So it's going to be a very, very tough fight for Nina Ansaroff, but she is engaged to double champ Amanda Nunes, who is at 135, so maybe she can use her sort of strength and abilities to spar with. I don't know if they spar together. I'd imagine they would. I mean, if I was with a UFC fighter as a partner and you're in the same job and a similar weight category, you'd be using them to try and gain every advantage possible. Now, despite having 7 takedowns per 15, Tatiana Suarez has 80% accuracy, which is absolutely phenomenal. You know, getting 5 or 6 every 15 on average, it's an incredible statistic. But she is, of course, a very, very good wrestler. She's at the top of her game, and she's coming up through the rankings pretty quick. And she's looking to be maybe Jessica Andrade's next sort of opponent, the next chapter in the strawweight division. Of course, it looks like we've got Rose Namajunas in a rematch perhaps against Jessica Andrade. Now, I think Tatiana Suarez would absolutely run through Rose Namajunas compared to what we see with Jessica Andrade's strength. But Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez would be an incredible fight. Both very strong, both probably in a division too small for them. Again, I think Tatiana Suarez could be in the 125-pound division and could potentially give Valentina Shevchenko a problem, because I don't really see anyone in that flyweight division so far who could really, really test the bullet. Now, for takedown defense, you've got 100% for Tatiana Suarez, so she's almost impossible to take down, and it's 80% for Nina Ansaroff. So again, if we're getting 6-7 attempts from Tatiana Suarez over the 15 minutes should it reach the distance, she's going to be blocking at least 4 or 5 of them at least. But it only takes 1 for Tatiana Suarez to get you down, and then it's going to be a very long night, I'm sure. But should she get outside the first round, you know, every round starts standing up again, so it's almost a reset. But again, I'm going to have to back Tatiana Suarez in this fight. I think she believes and makes it 8-0 inside her pro MMA career. I think she's going to push on to book a title shot with Jessica Andrade probably in October, especially now with September UFC 242. That could be a very good co-main event, Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez. But yeah, I think Tatiana Suarez is going to do this, and I think it's going to be via I think it's going to be a decision. I think it's going to be her toughest fight yet, but I think she's going to comfortably win it, and it's going to be something like 30-27, 30-26 sort of range. And you know, as soon as she gets a takedown in one of the rounds, it's game over for Nina Ansaroff, really. So yes, that is the end of part 1 for the 5th round UFC 238 preview. Now I'm hoping to have the guest for part 2, where we're going to be looking at the main fights. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and follow me on CageChat YT on both Twitter and Instagram to be up to date with everything UFC, and of course live tweets from UFC 238. And I'll see you on the next one.